My name is Nora Mitchell. I'm 32. 14 years ago, I stood on a stage in front of 1,200 people and delivered the valedictorian speech at Ridgewood High School in Ridgewood, North Carolina. I had worked 4 years for that moment. 4.0 GPA. National Honor Society President. 3 AP exams with perfect scores. The only student in Ridgewood history to receive a full academic scholarship to Duke University before senior year ended. My parents weren't there. They left 20 minutes before the ceremony to drive 45 minutes to Asheville so they could watch my younger brother Tyler play in a regional baseball championship. A game he lost 7-3. 14 years later, my parents were sitting in their living room watching the 6 o'clock news on Channel 9 when the anchor said a name they hadn't heard on television before. Mine. And what happened after that changed everything. Before I tell you what happened, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. I grew up in a 3-bedroom ranch house on Maple Bend Road, the kind of street where everyone knows your lawn mower schedule and your mother's maiden name. Ridgewood was a town of 11,000 people, 1 high school, 2 churches, a Dairy Queen, and a baseball diamond that got more funding than the public library. My father, Carl Mitchell, 44 at the time, worked as a foreman at the Henderson lumber mill. Broad shoulders, quiet voice, the kind of man who measured love in actions but only directed those actions in one direction. My mother, Denise, 42, worked part-time at the veterinary clinic on Route 9. She kept the house clean, the meals warm, and the family calendar organized around one thing: Tyler's baseball schedule. My brother Tyler was 2 years younger than me. 16 when I graduated. Left-handed pitcher with a fastball that topped out at 84 miles per hour. To hear my parents tell it, Tyler Mitchell was going to be the first person from Ridgewood to make it to the major leagues. Every conversation in our house orbited around Tyler's arm. Dinner was scheduled around practice. Vacations were planned around tournaments. The living room mantel held 14 trophies, all Tyler's. My National Honor Society plaque sat on top of the refrigerator behind a box of cereal. I'm not exaggerating. Behind the Cheerios. I found it there when I was 16 and moved it to my bedroom. Nobody noticed. Let me be clear. Tyler wasn't cruel. He was a decent kid who happened to be born into a house where his talent was the only thing anyone wanted to talk about. He didn't ask for the favoritism. He just never questioned it. And I didn't blame him. I blamed the 2 adults who were supposed to love us equally and never once tried. When I was 12, I won the county spelling bee. 47 rounds. The final word was acquiesce. I remember it because I had to look it up the night before, and the definition felt like something I already understood. To accept something reluctantly but without protest. My mother was supposed to drive me. She forgot. The school secretary, Mrs. Linden, called the house twice. The second time, Denise picked up and said she was at Tyler's travel ball practice in Charlotte and couldn't make it back in time. Mrs. Linden drove me herself. When I came home with the trophy, Denise said, "Oh, that's nice, honey. Put it somewhere safe." She was ironing Tyler's uniform for a weekend tournament. When I was 14, I placed first in the state science fair with a project on water filtration systems for rural communities. The award ceremony was on a Saturday in Raleigh, 2 hours away. My father said he'd drive me. Friday night, Tyler's coach called. There was an extra showcase game on Saturday. A scout from a travel organization might be watching. Might was all it took. Dad drove Tyler to the showcase. Mom stayed home because she had a headache. I took a Greyhound bus to Raleigh at 6 in the morning with $40 in my pocket and my project board wrapped in a trash bag to keep it dry. I won first place. The governor shook my hand. A photographer from the Raleigh News Observer took my picture. I still have that clipping. I'm holding the award with both hands, smiling, standing completely alone. When I got home, Dad asked how it went. "Good. That's great, sweetheart." He was watching Tyler's game film on the laptop. He never asked to see the trophy. He never asked what the governor said. He never asked why a 14-year-old girl rode a Greyhound bus alone for 4 hours. These aren't complaints. These are receipts. By the time I was 17, I had stopped expecting anything. I didn't stop achieving. I just stopped announcing it. I collected accomplishments the way some people collect stamps. Quietly. Privately. In a box no one else opens. My guidance counselor, Mr. Barrow, noticed. He was the one who encouraged me to apply to Duke. Nora, you have the strongest transcript I've seen in 18 years at this school. You should be aiming higher than anyone in this town expects. I applied to Duke, UNC Chapel Hill, University of Virginia, and Georgia Tech. I got into all 4. Duke offered a full ride. Tuition, room, board, books. $62,000 a year for 4 years. $248,000 in total scholarship value. When the acceptance email came, I was sitting in my bedroom at 4:47 in the afternoon on a Wednesday in March. I stared at the screen for 2 full minutes. Then I walked downstairs. Denise was on the phone with Tyler's pitching coach discussing a new grip for his changeup. Carl was in the garage organizing baseball equipment. I stood in the kitchen doorway and waited. Denise glanced at me, held up one finger, and kept talking. I waited 11 minutes. I counted. When she finally hung up, I said, I got into Duke. Full scholarship. She blinked. Duke. Duke University. Full academic scholarship. Everything paid. Oh. That's wonderful, honey. She smiled. It lasted about 3 seconds. Did you take the chicken out of the freezer like I asked? I hadn't. I went back upstairs. That night at dinner, Denise mentioned it to Carl. Nora got into some school on a scholarship. Duke, I said. Duke University. Carl nodded. Good for you. Tyler looked up from his plate. Isn't Duke, like, really hard to get into? Top 10 in the country, I said. That's awesome, Nora. Tyler said it like he meant it. He was the only one at the table who reacted like a human being. Carl changed the subject. Tyler, Coach Davis called. He wants to move you to the first slot for regionals. And just like that, Duke University disappeared from the conversation. 2 days later, I needed a parent signature on the scholarship acceptance form. Deadline was Friday. I left the form on the kitchen counter Monday morning with a sticky note that said, please sign by Thursday. Important. Monday night, it was still there. Unsigned. Tuesday, I reminded Denise. I'll get to it, she said. Wednesday, I reminded Carl. He said, your mom's handling it. Thursday morning, the form was under a stack of Tyler's tournament registration papers. Still unsigned. I called Mr. Barrow in a panic. He drove to our house during his lunch break, knocked on the door, and stood in our kitchen while Denise signed the form with a confused look on her face, like she was signing a permission slip for a field trip. Mr. Barrow drove the form to the post office himself. He didn't say anything in the car. He didn't have to. He'd seen enough. That evening, he sent me an email. One line. Nora, never let anyone make you feel small for being extraordinary. I printed that email. I still have it in my desk drawer. The ink has faded, but I can still read every word. Now let me tell you about graduation week. Senior year ended on a Friday. The ceremony was Saturday, June 14th, at 2 p.m. in the Ridgewood High Gymnasium. I was the valedictorian. I'd written a 6-minute speech over the course of 3 weeks. I practiced it 22 times, I know because I kept a tally on the back of the draft, standing in front of my bedroom mirror, timing myself with my phone. The speech was about invisible work. About the people who build things quietly while the world watches someone else. I didn't name anyone. I didn't need to. On Monday of that week, a banner went up in the school lobby. Congratulations to our class of 2012 valedictorian, Nora Mitchell. My AP English teacher, Mrs. Catherine Vaughan, 58, took a photo of me standing beneath it. She printed 2 copies. One for herself. One for me. Your parents must be so proud, she said. They are, I lied. On Tuesday, the school newspaper ran a feature on me. Half a page. My photo, my GPA, my scholarship, a quote from Mr. Barrow calling me the most disciplined student Ridgewood has ever produced. I brought a copy home and left it on the kitchen table. When I came downstairs the next morning, it was under Tyler's cleats. Wednesday afternoon, Tyler came home early from practice. He walked into my room, which he almost never did, and sat on the edge of my bed. Hey. So, Saturday. You're giving the big speech? Yeah. That's pretty cool, Nora. I looked at him. He seemed genuine. Thanks, Ty. He paused. Mom and Dad are coming, right? Something about the way he asked it. Like he already sensed the answer might not be simple. They said they would. He nodded slowly. Okay. Good. He left without saying anything else. I didn't think much of it at the time. I should have. Thursday evening, I overheard my parents in the kitchen. I was upstairs. My door was open. Sound travels in a ranch house. Every word climbs the hallway like it's been invited. The regionals are Saturday at 1:30 in Asheville, Carl said. Coach Davis wants the parents there early for the team photo. What time is Nora's ceremony? Denise asked. 2:00. Silence. The kind that has weight. Asheville is 45 minutes away, Denise said. We can't do both. No. Another pause. Tyler's been working toward regionals all season, Carl said. I know. And Nora's just walking across a stage. She already got into Duke. The scholarship's done. What's left to prove? She's the valedictorian, Carl. I know. But Tyler needs us there. And Nora doesn't. Nora's always been fine on her own. That sentence. Those 7 words. I heard them from the top of the stairs and felt something crack inside me that I didn't know could break. Nora's always been fine on her own. Not because she wanted to be. Because you never gave her a choice. I closed my bedroom door quietly. I sat on the floor with my back against it and stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry. I'd trained myself out of that years ago. I just sat there and made a decision. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to guilt them. If they chose Tyler's baseball game over my graduation, that was their answer. Not to today's question, but to every question I'd ever been afraid to ask. Do you see me? Do I matter? No. And no. Friday night. The eve of graduation. Denise made pot roast. Carl set the table. Tyler was texting his teammates. Normal dinner. Normal silence. Halfway through the meal, I spoke. So, what time are we leaving tomorrow? Denise set down her fork. Carl looked at his plate. Honey, Denise began. About tomorrow. Tyler's regionals are at the same time, Carl said. Flat. Direct. Like reading a weather report. We talked about it, and we think it's important for us to be there for Tyler. This is his shot. I looked at my mother. And my speech. You'll do great, sweetheart. You always do. We'll celebrate when we get home. Celebrate. Like picking up a cake from the Dairy Queen would cover it. Mrs. Vaughan will be there, Denise added. And your friends. You won't be alone. She said it like she was doing me a favor. Like the presence of a teacher and some classmates was an acceptable substitute for your own parents watching you stand at a podium and represent the best your school has to offer. I nodded. Okay. That was all I said. 1 word. 2 letters. It contained 18 years of everything I never had the courage to scream. Tyler looked up from his phone. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he looked at our parents. I don't need you both there, he said quietly. Carl shook his head. We're a family, Tyler. We show up together. Then show up for Nora. The table went silent. Denise's mouth opened, then closed. Carl cleared his throat. Tyler, eat your dinner. Tyler looked at me one more time. I could see it in his face. Guilt, frustration, helplessness. He was 16. He didn't have the vocabulary for what he was feeling, but he felt it. I gave him a small nod. It's okay. It's not your fault. He went back to his food. Nobody spoke for the rest of the meal. Saturday, June 14th, graduation day. I woke up at 7:12 a.m. I know the exact time because I lay in bed staring at my phone for 4 minutes before getting up, hoping for a text that said, "We changed our minds." No text. I showered. I ironed my white dress. I pinned my honor cords, gold and navy, to my gown. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and practiced smiling until it looked real. At 11 a.m., I heard the garage door open. Carl was loading the car. Baseball chairs. A cooler. Tyler's equipment bag. Denise appeared in my doorway. "You look beautiful, honey." "Thanks. We'll try to be back by 5. We can do dinner." "Sure." She hesitated. For 1 second, I thought she might stay. I thought something in her might shift, might break through the routine and the priorities and the years of choosing wrong. "Good luck with your speech." She walked away. I heard the front door close. The car started. The gravel crunched under the tires. Then silence. I stood alone in a house that still smelled like this morning's coffee, wearing a graduation gown that nobody was going to watch me put on. I drove myself to the ceremony. A 12-minute drive in my 2004 Honda Civic with 140,000 miles on it, the car I'd bought myself with money from tutoring younger students at 15 an hour. The parking lot was already full. Families everywhere. Fathers adjusting ties. Mothers holding flowers. Grandparents with cameras. Little kids running between cars. I parked at the far end and sat for a moment. Mrs. Vaughan was waiting for me at the gymnasium entrance. She wore a green dress and her reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She took one look at my face and understood. "They went to the game?" I nodded. She didn't say "I'm sorry." She didn't say "That's terrible." She put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Then let's make sure your speech is the thing this town remembers." The gymnasium was full. 1,200 people packed into bleachers and folding chairs. The stage was decorated with blue and white streamers. Principal Henderson was adjusting the microphone. I sat in the front row with the other honor students. My speech was folded in my pocket. My hands were steady. When they called my name, I walked across the stage to the podium. The applause was loud. My teachers stood. My classmates cheered. I looked out at the crowd. Row after row of faces. Parents beaming. Cameras flashing. A woman in the third row was already crying and the ceremony had barely started. I looked at the 2 empty seats in the fourth row. The ones Mrs. Vaughan had reserved and labeled Mitchell family. Empty. I adjusted the microphone. And I gave the best speech of my life. I talked about invisible effort. About the students who study at midnight while the house is quiet. About the girl who rides a Greyhound bus to a science fair because no one offered a ride. About the difference between being independent and being forgotten. I didn't say their names. I didn't need to. Some of us learned resilience not because someone taught us, but because no one caught us when we fell. And that's okay. Because the ground taught us something the arms never could. It taught us we could stand. The gymnasium went quiet for 3 full seconds after I finished. Then the applause came. Loud. Long. The kind that shakes the bleachers. Mrs. Vaughan was standing, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Barrow was clapping so hard I could see his hands turning red from the stage. I smiled. A real one. Not practiced. Not forced. Because in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't speaking to 1,200 people. I was speaking to myself. And for the first time, I was listening. Now, I know some of you are wondering, what happened when her parents got home? Did they even care? And that brother, Tyler, what did he do? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story is hitting you in the chest right now, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. Back to the story. They got home at 6:14 p.m. I was sitting on the porch in shorts and a t-shirt. The graduation gown was hanging in my closet. The diploma was on my desk. The honor cords were coiled on my nightstand like a question nobody had asked. Carl's truck pulled into the driveway. Tyler got out first. He looked at me. His eyes were red. Not from crying. From exhaustion. They'd lost 7-3. Denise climbed out of the passenger side. She was carrying a fast food bag from Wendy's. She smiled. "Hey, sweetheart. How was it? How was it?" Like she was asking about a dentist appointment. "Fine. Did you do the speech?" "Yes. I bet it was great." She walked past me into the house. Carl nodded at me. "Proud of you, kid." He followed Denise inside without stopping. Tyler sat down next to me on the porch step. He didn't say anything for a while. "How was the game?" I asked. "We lost." "Sorry." "Don't be." He rubbed his face. "I played like garbage." Silence. "I told Dad to stay," he said. "Before the game. In the parking lot. I told him you needed them more." "What did he say?" "He said you understood." I nodded. "Yeah. I do." Tyler looked at me. "Do you?" "I understand perfectly, Tyler. That's the problem." He didn't respond. He just sat beside me while the fireflies came out and the porch light buzzed above us. That night, I lay in bed and made a list. Not a dramatic one. Not a revenge plan. Just a simple list on a yellow legal pad. Things I will stop waiting for. Their attention. Their approval. Their presence. Their pride. I folded the list and put it inside my Duke acceptance letter. 3 months later, I loaded 2 suitcases into my Civic and drove myself to Durham, North Carolina. 3 hours and 22 minutes. Nobody offered to come. I didn't ask. Denise texted when I was halfway there. "Drive safe. Love you." 4 words. No exclamation point. No "we're so proud." No "call us when you get there." I replied, "Thanks." I didn't cry on that drive. I'd already done my crying. I spent the trip listening to a podcast about startup founders and thinking about what kind of person I wanted to become when nobody was watching. The answer was simple. Someone worth watching. Duke changed everything. Not because the campus was beautiful, although it was. Not because the professors were brilliant, although they were. It changed everything because for the first time in my life, the people around me reacted to my work with something other than indifference. My freshman computer science professor, Dr. Anand Mehta, pulled me aside after my first midterm. "Nora, you scored a 98. The class average was 71. Where did you learn to think like this?" "Alone, mostly." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he offered me a position in his research lab. I was a freshman. Lab positions were for juniors and seniors. I said yes before he finished the sentence. Over the next 4 years, I studied like my life depended on it, because in a way, it did. Not financially. The scholarship covered everything. But emotionally. Intellectually. I was building an identity that didn't depend on 2 people in Ridgewood who never learned how to see me. I double majored in computer science and mathematics. I graduated summa cum laude. I published 2 research papers before I turned 22. My parents came to my college graduation. They actually came. They sat in the back. They clapped politely. Afterward, Denise said, "That was long." Carl said, "Where's the parking validation?" They drove home the same evening. During my time at Duke, I called home every Sunday. The conversations followed a pattern. Minute 1. "How are you?" Minute 2. "Good. How's Tyler?" Minutes 3 through 15. Tyler's baseball season, Tyler's showcase, Tyler's coach, Tyler's arm, Tyler's future. Tyler had gotten a baseball scholarship to a Division II school in Georgia. Good program. Not elite. He was a solid college pitcher, but the MLB scouts never called. His fastball topped out at 86. In college baseball, 86 is average. By his junior year, he'd been moved to the bullpen. By his senior year, he tore his UCL. Tommy John surgery. 14 months of rehab. The MLB dream ended in a doctor's office in Atlanta at 3:15 on a Tuesday afternoon. My parents were devastated. Not because Tyler was hurt. Because the plan was over. The plan they'd built their entire family around, the plan that justified every missed recital, every forgotten science fair, every empty chair at every ceremony that mattered to me. Gone. Tyler handled it better than they did. He finished his degree in sports management, moved to Nashville, and got a job coaching at a high school. He called me on my birthday that year, the first family member to do so before 9 p.m. "Hey, Nora. Hey, Ty. Happy birthday. Thanks. I've been thinking about a lot of things. Yeah. I'm sorry they missed your graduation." I didn't say anything for a moment. That was 7 years ago, Tyler. I know. I should have said it 7 years ago. You were 16. I was old enough to know it was wrong. Silence. It means a lot, Tyler. Really. You deserved better. Yeah, I said quietly. I did. After Duke, I moved to Boston. I got a job at a tech startup called Meridian Labs. Small company, 23 employees, building AI-powered diagnostic tools for rural hospitals. The work felt personal. I'd grown up in a town with one doctor's office that closed at 4. I knew what it was like when healthcare didn't reach you. I started as a junior engineer. Within 2 years, I was leading the product team. By year 3, the CEO, a woman named Sandra Okafor, pulled me into her office. "Nora, I'm stepping back. Health reasons. I want you to take over as CTO." I was 27. "I'm not ready," I said. "No one ever is. That's not the question. The question is whether you'll figure it out. And I've watched you figure out everything I've ever put in front of you." I said yes. Over the next 5 years, I rebuilt Meridian Labs from the inside out. We expanded from 23 employees to 310. We secured $42 million in Series B funding. Our diagnostic platform was deployed in 140 rural hospitals across 12 states. In my 4th year as CTO, I was promoted to CEO after Sandra officially retired. I was 31 years old, running a company valued at $180 million. I didn't post about it on social media. I didn't call Ridgewood. I didn't send a press release to the town newspaper. I just kept working. During those years, my contact with Ridgewood faded to almost nothing. Denise called on holidays. The conversations lasted under 10 minutes. "How's work?" "Busy." "Tyler says hi. Tell him hi back. Your father's knee is acting up." "Sorry to hear that." "Okay, honey. Love you." "Love you too." That was it. Every time. The same script. The same distance. Like speaking to a customer service line that never resolves the issue. Carl called twice a year. Once on my birthday, always after 8 p.m., clearly reminded by Denise. Once at Christmas, usually to ask if I was coming home. I hadn't been home for Christmas in 6 years. I sent gifts. I paid for their property tax once when Carl's hours were cut at the mill. I wired $8,000 without them asking. Denise sent a text. "Got it. Thank you, honey." No call. No question about how I could afford to send. 8000 likite wasnothing. Curiosity about idid forelivingor howajul from Ridgewooden de Dupin apposition to Carsuliriten. 8000 likite wasnothing. Curiosity about idid forelivingor howajul from Ridgewooden de Dupin apposition to Carsuliriten. 8000 check. They didn't ask because they didn't want to know. Knowing would mean confronting the fact that the daughter they'd overlooked had become someone worth paying attention to. And that would mean admitting they'd been wrong. The TV moment happened on a Wednesday, November 15th. I was in San Francisco for Tech Forward, one of the largest technology conferences in the country. 8,000 attendees. I was delivering the closing keynote on the main stage. The speech was called The Ones Nobody Sees. It was about building technology for underserved communities. About rural hospitals, forgotten towns, kids who grow up smart in places that don't know what to do with smart. I didn't plan what happened next. 20 minutes into the speech, I went off script. When I was 14, I said, standing in front of 8,000 people and a livestream camera with 200,000 viewers, I rode a Greyhound bus alone to a state science fair because nobody in my family offered me a ride. The room was silent. When I was 18, I gave the valedictorian speech at my high school. The 2 seats reserved for my parents were empty. They were at a baseball game. A ripple moved through the audience. A murmur. Phones came out. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you this because the girl on that bus, she's the reason I'm standing here. The empty seats didn't destroy me. They redirected me. I paused. Every product we build at Meridian Labs is for the person in the room that nobody's looking at. Because I was that person. And someone should have been looking. The applause lasted 47 seconds. I timed it later on the recording. Within 2 hours, the clip was everywhere. Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. The 90-second segment about the Greyhound bus and the empty seats was viewed 4.2 million times in the first 24 hours. Forbes ran an article the next morning. Meridian Labs CEO Nora Mitchell delivers the most powerful tech keynote of 2026. CNN picked it up. So did NBC. So did CBS. And then the local affiliates found it. Channel 9 WSOC, the Charlotte station that reaches every living room in western North Carolina including Ridgewood, ran a segment during the 6 o'clock evening news on Thursday. A local North Carolina woman is making national headlines tonight. Nora Mitchell, originally from Ridgewood, delivered a keynote speech at a major technology conference that has gone viral. They played the clip. The Greyhound bus. The empty seats. The valedictorian speech. All of it. And then the anchor said the line that made my phone ring. Mitchell's company, Meridian Labs, is currently valued at $180 million. She is one of the youngest female CEOs in the American healthcare technology sector. At 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time on a Thursday in November, my parents were sitting in their living room in Ridgewood, watching Channel 9 like they did every night, and their daughter's face filled the screen. The daughter they skipped graduation for. The daughter whose scholarship form they almost forgot to sign. The daughter whose trophies sat behind the Cheerios. 180 million. And they found out on the evening news. My phone rang at 6:31 p.m. 7 minutes after the segment aired. Mom on the screen. I was still in my hotel room in San Francisco, packing for the red-eye home. I let it ring 4 times. Then I answered. Nora. Denise's voice was strange. Not the sweet, distracted tone I'd heard for 14 years. Something thinner. Something shaking. Hi, Mom. We just saw you. On the news. Okay. You're on TV, Nora. They said your company is worth $180 million. That's the valuation, yes. Silence. A long one. I could hear Carl in the background. His voice was muffled, but I caught the words, "Why didn't she tell us?" Denise came back. Honey, why didn't you tell us about any of this? I set my suitcase down. Tell you what, exactly? This. Your company. The speech. All of it. Mom, I've had the same phone number for 12 years. I've answered every call. I've never once refused to talk to you. When did you ever ask what I do for a living? Nothing. When did you ever ask about my work? My company? My life in Boston? You've never visited me, Mom. Not once in 14 years. We're not big travelers, Nora. You know that. You drove to Asheville, Macon, Atlanta, and Tallahassee for Tyler's baseball games. You drove 6 hours to watch him pitch in a tournament in Knoxville. You drove. You just didn't drive to me. Her breathing changed. Sharper. That's not fair. I'm not being unfair. I'm being accurate. Your father is very upset. About what? About hearing about his daughter's success on the television instead of from his daughter. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed. Dad has called me twice a year for 14 years. Birthday and Christmas. The calls average 7 minutes. He has never once asked me about my career. He has never once said, Nora, what are you working on? So no, Mom. He doesn't get to be upset that the TV told him before I did. The TV paid more attention. Denise didn't respond for nearly 10 seconds. Then, the shift. I knew it was coming. The same shift Denise always makes when she runs out of justification. You've always been so independent, Nora. We never worried about you because you never seemed to need us. I needed you at graduation. That was 14 years ago. And I still remember every empty seat. She exhaled. What do you want me to say? I don't want you to say anything, Mom. You called me. I'm just answering honestly. Your father wants to talk to you. Carl came on the line. His voice was gruff, the way it gets when he's embarrassed and trying to cover it with authority. Nora. Hi, Dad. We saw the news. So I've heard. Why didn't we know about this? Because you never asked. I'm your father. Yes. You are. And you chose Tyler's baseball game over my graduation. Dead silence. The kind where you can hear a house settling. That was a long time ago. It was. And I've built a very good life since then. Quietly. Without asking for your attention. Without performing for your approval. Exactly the way you raised me to be. On my own. He didn't have a response for that. Nora, your mother, and I. We did our best. I believe you. And your best wasn't enough. Both of those things can be true, Dad. I heard him swallow. We'd like to come see you. You know where I live. Is that a yes? It's an open door. Whether you walk through it is up to you. He handed the phone back to Denise. She said goodbye quietly. I said goodbye. The call lasted 9 minutes. 9 minutes. Longer than any call we'd had in 14 years. And the only one where anyone said anything real. 2 days later, Tyler called. I saw the speech. Yeah. Nora, it was incredible. I watched it 3 times. Thanks, Ty. The part about the Greyhound bus. Yeah. And the empty seats. Yeah. Silence. I called Mom after the news segment. She was. I've never heard her sound like that. Like what? Like someone who just realized they lost something they can't buy back. I closed my eyes. How's Dad? Quiet. He went to the garage after the call and didn't come out for 2 hours. The garage. Classic Dad. Tyler laughed. Short, sad. Nora, listen. I need to say something. I've carried this for years and I'm tired of it. Okay. You were the best of us. You were always the best of us. And I got treated like I was the only one who mattered. And I hate that I never said anything loud enough for them to hear. You were a kid, Tyler. I'm 30 now. I'm not a kid anymore. And I'm saying it. What they did to you was wrong. The spelling bee. The science fair. The graduation. The scholarship form. All of it. Wrong. I didn't say anything. My throat was too tight. And I'm sorry. Tyler. I'm sorry I got the trophies on the mantel while yours sat behind the cereal. I laughed. A wet, broken laugh. You knew about the Cheerios. I moved them once. Mom put them back. Silence. Then we both laughed. The kind of laughter that's mostly grief wearing a disguise. I love you, Nora. I love you too, Ty. Come home for Christmas. Maybe. Let me think about it. Fair enough. He hung up. I sat in my apartment in Boston and stared out the window at the Charles River. The water was dark and still and reflected the city lights back like a mirror. I didn't go home for Christmas. Not that year. But I went the next one. When I pulled into the driveway on Maple Bend Road, the house looked smaller than I remembered. The porch light was on. The same one that had been on the night I left for Duke. Denise opened the door before I reached the steps. She looked older. Her hair had gone silver at the temples. Her hands were clasped in front of her, tight, the way people hold themselves when they're afraid of what might happen next. Nora. Hi, Mom. She stepped forward and hugged me. Not a performance. Not a quick one. She held on like someone who knew she had let go too many times before. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't say it's okay. Because it wasn't okay. It was years of not being seen, and a hug doesn't fix that. But I hugged her back. Because sometimes the first step toward healing isn't forgiveness. It's presence. Carl stood in the hallway. He was holding something. My National Honor Society plaque. The one that had lived on top of the refrigerator behind the cereal. It was polished. The frame was new. I put it on the mantel, he said quietly. Next to Tyler's. I looked at the living room. The mantel, the one I hadn't seen in 6 years. Tyler's trophies were still there. But beside them, neatly arranged, were things I'd never seen displayed before. My spelling bee trophy. My science fair certificate. A framed copy of the Raleigh newspaper photo of me at 14, holding my award, standing alone. My Duke acceptance letter, printed and framed. The Forbes article. The Tech Forward keynote photo. All of it. Every accomplishment they'd ignored, gathered and displayed like evidence of a crime they were finally ready to confess. When did you do this? I asked. Carl cleared his throat. Started the week after the news segment. Your father spent 3 days searching the attic, Denise said. He found things I forgot we even had. You didn't forget, I said. You just didn't look. Nobody argued with that. Tyler arrived an hour later with a box of donuts and a grin. Merry Christmas, family. He hugged me first. Then Mom. Then Dad. We ate dinner together. Turkey. Mashed potatoes. Green beans. Pumpkin pie from the bakery on Main Street. The conversation wasn't easy. It stopped and started like a car with her old engine. But it ran. At one point, Denise asked about Meridian Labs. She asked real questions. Specific ones. What the software does. How many hospitals use it. Whether the work made me happy. I told her about a 9-year-old girl in rural Mississippi who was diagnosed with a heart condition through our platform. A condition that would have gone undetected for years without it. She's healthy now, I said. Because the technology reached a town that most companies ignore. Denise put her hand over her mouth. You're saving children, she said. I'm trying. She looked at me with something I'd never seen in her eyes before. Not pride exactly. Recognition. Like she was finally seeing the person who'd been standing in front of her for 32 years. After dinner, I stepped onto the porch. The air was cold. December in North Carolina, sharp and clean. The stars were out. Carl followed me. We stood side by side, looking at the street. The same street where I'd learned to ride a bike, where Tyler had practiced pitching against the garage door, where the school bus had picked me up every morning for 12 years. I don't know how to fix what I missed, Carl said. You can't fix it, Dad. It's already happened. Then what can I do? You can stop pretending it didn't happen. And you can start showing up now. He nodded. I watched your speech, he said. The one from the conference. Yeah. The part about the empty seats. Yeah. He was quiet for a long time. I'm going to spend the rest of my life wishing I'd been in one of those seats. I looked at him. Then don't waste the seats you still have. He put his arm around my shoulder. Stiff, unpracticed, the way a man holds something precious when he's afraid he'll drop it. We stood there until the cold drove us inside. I drove back to Boston 2 days later. The drive was 12 hours. I didn't listen to a podcast this time. I didn't listen to anything. I just drove and let 14 years of silence settle into something I could carry without it breaking me. My parents weren't perfect. They never would be. They had chosen wrong, over and over, in ways that left marks I'd carry for the rest of my life. But standing on that porch, I realized something. I hadn't built my life to prove them wrong. I had built it to prove myself right. That the girl on the Greyhound bus deserved to arrive somewhere. That the empty seats didn't define the speech. That the trophies behind the cereal were still trophies. And that the greatest thing I ever achieved wasn't a company valued at $180 million. It wasn't the keynote. It wasn't the Forbes article. It was learning that my worth was never theirs to decide. It never was. And it never will be. If this story made you feel something, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you were the kid with the empty seats, just know you were always enough. The seats were wrong. Not you. Subscribe for a new story every week. I'll see you in the next one.